everyone, my name is Gabby, and it's been 3.5 months since I filmed a new video, which is crazy, but honestly, I have these hiatuses all the time on my channel, so this is nothing new, and every time I film a new video after a break, I feel like I need to apologize for it, and it's always the same excuse. I'm a high school student, and now I'm a college student, and I have classes that are 3 hours long, and take up a significant amount of my day on top of all the homework that I have to do. And I also have a job now as a resident advisor at my dorm, which is pretty much a 24/7 job because you never know when you're gonna have a resident that has a conflict that you have to deal with. We started a holiday working schedule where we're literally working from 10 a.m. to 10 a.m. So it's just been crazy busy, and it's been difficult to find time to sit down and film a video since the semester has started. But I've made it through the semester. I'm currently filming this video on Wednesday night, and I have my last day of the semester tomorrow, and it's gonna be very chill. I literally just get to watch a movie in one of my classes, which is gonna be great. It's honestly like the best way to end my semester, and it's with a professor that I really, really love, so that's great. Glad to be ending my semester on a high note. And as always, like, I think I ended the semester with a 4.0 GPA. Fingers crossed, I don't want to jinx it, but at least that seems where I'm at. I obviously haven't gotten final grades in yet for some of my classes, so we'll see. But hopefully by the time I have this video up, that'll be official. And it's kind of been weird because 2020 has been a year, and so I kind of wanted to take the time to sort of film a video talking about that, talk about things that have been going on, sort of how I've responded to this year, what this channel is going to look like going forward because this year has just been so crazy, and just sort of have a conversation with all of you, because I feel like sometimes a lot of the content is let's talk about this book or this movie or this thing, and we never just have conversations as people that are going through things and having to live in a world that is really, really difficult to live in right now. I have a little checklist of like 5 things that I want to talk about. So number 1, I sort of already touched on a little bit, which is just being in school and being a resident advisor. Life is really weird for me right now because a lot of my friends are taking all of their classes from home because everything is virtual now, and I'm the person that is away and working and is still on campus. And normally in my life it's always been the other way around. My friends have always been really busy, and I've sort of had to deal with their busy schedules, and I've sort of kept things a little bit more relaxed because having such a busy and intense schedule gets me really anxious and really overwhelmed and really stressed out, and it's not good for my mental health or emotional health to just have way too much going on. I've gotten better at dealing with it, but it's still not good. I need to have brain breaks to be able to relax and to be able to find routes to escape into, because if not, I'll just get lost in my own head and overthink everything, and it just won't be good. So it's been weird in a year where so many people have had to put their life on pause, and all of the normal things that they do have been set aside to be so incredibly busy with classes and with work, and to not really be experiencing that pause that a lot of other people have been experiencing. I feel like so much of this year has been so constant, foot on the gas pedal, constantly pushing to get work done, constantly pushing to have assignments and on time, to have the motivation to get through classes. Because another thing, I am in a liberal arts college, and transitioning that type of environment virtually is a nightmare, and I have a lot of respect for my professors who are really trying their best to make this environment work. There's some professors that are very good at it and very accommodating, and there's others that are just a nightmare to work with. And I think for a liberal arts college, it's really difficult because no matter what type of professor you are, you're losing something. Journalism is one of the fields that can probably better transition online. Like if you're a theater major, or you're a dance major, or you're a film major, like learning in this environment has to be terrible because you're not able to have access to the equipment, the studio resources, the spaces that so much of the magic happens in. And when you're trying to learn and understand what that environment looks like and be a part of it for the first time, a pandemic takes that all away from you. It's amazing what teachers in those spaces and professors in those spaces have been able to do to accommodate students and still try to make it work. And my hope is that with the vaccine coming soon, that this won't have to be something that's permanent, and that we'll start to get back to those in-person environments and be able to do so safely. I I think it's been weird being a journalism major because our industry has so rapidly changed over the past 4 years in response to the presidency and in response to the way that the presidency has treated the media. It's a very fine line that we're teetering right now. And so being a student journalist, you have to be so abundantly cautious of everything that you say and that you do, and making sure that you're really being ethically grounded so that you can come into the field and help to fix the mess that it's become and know what principles and ethics and values and morals and you need to abide by, and just know how to do your job and don't have anybody have to teach you or explain anything to you. I feel like I am not going to have necessarily the room to grow that a lot of other people have. I'll feel like I'm going to have to sort of just shotgun right into it and just have the expectation that I know what I'm doing, because there's not going to be room for error. And so in an online environment where you're trying to learn, it's really difficult to do reporting and to interview people and to really get out in the field and get comfortable with how you tell stories. And so much of journalism is also subjective because every editor will want something different. And so it's felt really hard to be able to express myself creatively and to get into that headspace. And that's another reason why I haven't been filming as much, is because all of the energy that I'm having to exude in all of my classes has left me so barren to have creative energy for any personal projects that I would like. I just don't have the willpower or the motivation to be able to do it. And I don't want those things to be chores for me. I want them to be fun and I want to enjoy doing them. And if I'm not enjoying it, then what's the point? I'm really glad to be done with the semester and to get a month off, and hopefully I'll have more time to film and edit and upload, and I'll really be able to ramp up on my content. I feel like I really have seasonal points on my channel where I'm able to really upload a lot, and that's just when I'm on breaks from school and I have no other responsibilities, and so I can film as much as I want. And that's absolutely going to be my goal with the month that I have off. And then I'll start the spring semester again, and we'll see how much time I have and when you'll see me again, because my spring schedule is pretty packed. Probably even worse than my fall schedule, which is just great to think about. But for now, I think I'm just happy to finally have a break, to allow myself to be able to rest, because I've been constantly going. And the RA job too has been a lot, because we've been asked to do things that we've never done before in this position and really have to adapt and learn on the fly. And it's been an interesting environment to be a part of, and I think an interesting learning experience to have to so constantly adapt and figure things out and navigate different situations. I think that's a good learning environment to be in, but it's also stressful when it's your first time being in that position, and a lot of times you don't know what the answer is and you don't know who to ask to get the right answer, and if they will even know the answer. Communication this year has just been terrible in terms of what are the procedures, what are the ground rules, what are we doing in this situation, because so much of 2020 is just up in the air and we don't really know who's the person that's calling the shots, and that's made things difficult. Overall, school and work has been something that's been keeping me busy, but it's not something that's made me feel very fulfilled. But I'm pushing through it and hoping for things to get better soon. So September and October were just, pretty much just that, like classes and work and just sort of navigating this new environment that I was in. November was a particularly interesting month because we had an election, and it was my first time voting in a presidential election, because the last election was in 2016 and I was only 15 at that point, about to turn 16 at the end of the month. So I was not able to vote yet. And so for me, this election has been particularly intense because as a first-time voter, voting an election that is literally probably one of the most crucial elections that we have had ever in this country is pretty terrifying as a first-time voter, because you really feel like your vote matters and you need to make the right decision and you need to be informed and you need to know what's going on, because we're living in a world where not voting is inexcusable. If you have a right to vote, you should exercise it. For me, I think it made me realize that I need to do a lot more research on what it is that is going on in this world, and I think that'll come just with time and also experience and being a journalist and having to do that naturally for my job. But I think I have been in the very privileged position where I've been able to sort of be fine no matter what the results are, and there's a lot of people that cannot say that, which this year has very much proven in terms of some of the major groundbreaking moments and defining moments of this year. And it sort of made me realize I'm at a college that is incredibly diverse, that has people from all different walks of life that are attending, and people that are living in the building, people who are residents on my floor, people that I'm working with. I care about those people. Those are people I've come to work with and people that are important to me. My vote needs to reflect that, and reflect that of making sure that those people feel safe in this country and feel like they have a representative in office that is looking out for them and their interests, because I know that for me personally, whoever is in office, it's not going to affect me, but it will affect somebody else, and so that's how I have to use my vote. And I think in general, I became a lot more passionate about this is what it is that I believe and this is what I know to be right, just based on morals and looking out for other people around me, and sort of watching the way that things have unfolded in the last 4 years and how we've become so much more divided, and how that type of behavior helps absolutely nobody. It makes it so much more difficult to get things done that benefit the nation as a whole and benefit so many of us that are struggling right now. There's people that are on unemployment, people that are struggling to make ends meet because the pandemic has really made it difficult for them to survive, especially small business owners. There's a lot of people that need a president right now that looks out for them and their own interests. I just felt like there was only one way that I could vote, and I'm very happy with the results and how they've turned out, and I'm hopeful that things are going to get better in the next 4 years, but it is really going to take everybody coming to the table and saying that we need to put our own self-interest aside and do that which is good for the most amount of people. And I don't know if we're there yet, but I'm hopeful that maybe we can get there, and that maybe we can fix the mess that has unfolded over the last 4 years. I think this election was also particularly groundbreaking for me because it was my first election that I was ever covering as a student journalist. So I was up all night for days on end watching election coverage, watching the votes come in, and I think it was a particularly interesting election for a first-time voter because you get to really watch every vote come in and be tallied in a way that we never really have before with elections, and it made you realize the importance of counting every single vote, watching states that started out red turn blue, and watch the process of all of the votes being counted and the different ways that states count votes. It showed not only how much of a mess our process of voting is and how every state does something different, and that makes it so unbelievably complicated for people to be able to register to vote, to understand what their particular state or county or whatever's voting rules are. And I think the positive out of it, though, is that you really see that your vote matters, that every single vote can make a difference in the overall outcome. That's a really, really cool thing to see as a first-time voter, and I think it's such an important reminder of why you need to vote. And we saw record voter turnout this year, which is great, and I hope that it stays like that. And then if anything, you know, we make Election Day a national holiday and we get as many people as possible out to vote, and that we really get to see a world where everybody feels like their vote counts and that the people they are putting into office are actively working for their own interests. Obviously, that's a very, very idealistic hope, but I feel like I have faith in my generation that as we get older that we can get there. And being a part of this first presidential election, especially in a year like this where everything has been so on its head and backwards, was really special and a really interesting thing to be a part of. Particularly the day that the race was called for Joe Biden, I went out into the city and I just had never seen it more alive. The weather was beautiful for early November and people were out and about, but social distancing, and it just seemed like the city was more alive than it's ever been since March, and it just gave me so much hope. It's like, if this is what it's like right now, imagine where we'll be in a few months once Biden's been in office for a handful of days and has gotten to put in certain executive orders and has really gotten to implement all of the policies and plans that he has for this country. I think it just makes me hopeful as I look forward to the many, many more elections that are to come for me as a voter and also as a journalist who maybe will be covering these elections professionally. And it's made me just a lot more aware politically. And I feel like ever since I've been tuned into the election, everything that's been going on, I haven't shut myself off. I've really wanted to pay attention and be aware and listen to different people and different perspectives and just sort of understand what it's like to live in somebody else's shoes. And I haven't been reading a lot this year just because I've had so much work I've had to do for classes. It's required me to read longer articles, and so the last thing I've wanted to do is really read any books, but I definitely want to use the year that I have in 2021 to be able to do a lot more reading. I say that every year, and then you never know what happens, but I definitely want to read more novels that provide me with different perspectives and really get into that, because this election year has really kickstarted that for me. So at the end of November, I turned 20, which was something. Being 20 is weird. It's this very odd year where you're no longer a teenager anymore, but you're not 21 either, so you can't drink and you don't feel like you're fully adult, so it's odd. And also, with my birthday taking place during a pandemic, like, it doesn't feel like there's a lot to celebrate. But I feel like I've changed a lot in the past year from turning 19 to 20. I feel like I'm a lot more adamant about the things that I care about and a lot more passionate about these are things that I believe and these are things that I'm going to stand for, because I feel like I've always been, I don't want to say a wishy-washy person, but I feel like I've always been willing to agree with people and sort of just be like, yeah, that's okay, if I get into a heated situation with somebody, and I always back down, and I've never really stood up for the things that I've believed in necessarily, because I just didn't want to get into confrontations with people, and I was like, it's not worth it. I feel like I've lost that personality trait a little bit. I'm starting to be like, yeah, you know what? I think it's worth it, because these things matter and they're important, and we need to be somewhat on the same page right now in having our morals and values together and deciding what matters and what's important. And I think that the more that we start to fight over things and the more divided that we are, the more difficult it is to get things done. And I think we need to have conversations, and they need to be civil, but we also need to reach an agreement. And the only way we do that is through conversation. And so instead of backing down, I felt more of a need to stand up for what I believe in and actively, make a decision about what are the things that I want to believe, what do I think matters, and how do I want to take those values into my adulthood and into the future that I create for myself. I'm glad that I'm at that point where I'm not afraid to stand up for the things that I believe in anymore, and that I know what those things are, or I'm starting to feel more comfortable in what those things are for me, because obviously life is a journey and you're constantly changing your opinions as you're being informed and learning different things and hearing different perspectives. So I never think you're ever entirely concrete on what it is that you believe, except in some situations, obviously. I think a lot of that has come from being away from my home and being in different spaces where I'm allowed to hear different perspectives, and I'm allowed to really figure out who I want to be and what matters to me, and I'm not having other people's opinions stifle me and having to sort of live under a roof with people who are also very ideologically driven and very much are people that want to sort of enforce their will upon you. It's been nice to get to make those decisions for myself and to get to take that walk alone. I'm hopeful that I'll continue to do that into my 20s, and that it will be good for me to do those things, and that I'll benefit from that. So now it's December and the holidays are happening, which means they're not happening at all because we're in a pandemic. And for me, the holidays are usually really weird. I always have finals and classes and things, and I'm always really busy until around mid-December around this time. And then classes end. I have some preparation that I do to host Christmas Eve at my house. I host Christmas Eve at my house. I have Christmas Day, and then the holidays are over. And I'm like, what happened? Where did December go? And the year ends. And I feel like I never really get to enjoy the holiday season because so much of it has become a chore of like taking down decorations and putting up holiday decorations and cleaning and doing all of this holiday prep to host that I never really get to enjoy it. And now that none of that is happening this year, I feel like I found more joy in the holiday season and really still keeping alive what's important about the holidays, keeping loved ones close to you, obviously from a distance now, but still having conversations with them and keeping up to date with them, getting to, watch Christmas movies and listen to Christmas music and get in the spirit. I just feel like I've never had time to do that, and it's nice to finally have that. I just this week, or this weekend rather, sat down and watched on Disney Plus a whole bunch of the really old Disney Christmas specials. I watched the Disney version of A Christmas Carol, which I love, and the Mickey's Once and Twice Upon a Christmas. I think I like the Once Upon a Christmas more. The original is always better. Those are things that I would watch every year and were a staple part of my childhood. And I also watched the Disney sing-along from the mid-90s that I just love. Like, I grew up watching that as a kid, and I would watch it year round because my grandpa had the VHS of it and it would stay at his house, so there was no rule when I was there. So if I wanted to put the VHS in, I would, and I would just watch it and enjoy it all year round. Whereas I would not be able to do that at my parents' house because my parents are very seasonally appropriate, and so you are not listening to Christmas music in July or even in November. Like, you listen to Christmas music December 1st or right after Thanksgiving, as you're getting into the holiday season. Like, that's it. And then it's December 26th and it's no more Christmas music. Well, maybe we'll play Christmas music until New Year's, maybe, but then January 1st, no more Christmas music. And I feel like it's made it a lot more difficult for me to enjoy the holidays when there's such a short window that I can enjoy them in. Getting to have this year where there is no rules and everything is on its head, I started listening to Christmas music in November, and it's been great, and it's been sort of like the one thing that's been keeping me sane. I'm planning a Zoom call with my entire family, so our Christmas Eve tradition of Feast of the Seven Fishes with my dad's side of the family is gonna be a little different this year, but I'll still get to see all of my family, and we're planning on putting a Zoom call together. I'm working on that with my cousin, and so that'll be nice. It's a way to still preserve all the things that make the holiday special, but in a different format, and it's also a reminder of why these things are so important and why we need to value them, and gives us time to reflect about what really matters, because obviously this pandemic has been a nightmare, and there's not a lot of good that comes out of it, but I think I'm always somebody that tries to find the good in a situation and sort of see what can I do to take a really bad situation and make it better, or at least I've been trying to do that for myself this year. I sort of realized that a lot of pain and suffering has come out of this year, but we're learning to value all of these things that we took for granted in our normal lives, going to concerts, all this hustle and bustle, and starting to really hopefully appreciate what matters. And I think the holiday season is a large time when people try to reflect on that. And I think in particular, you know, this is a moment as we're getting towards the end of this god-awful year and hopefully seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, that there's things that matter that we need to value more and we need to place more emphasis on that we haven't been able to enjoy this year. And the hope is that when things are safe, that we really enjoy those things and we really appreciate them and we don't take them for granted. But that when we start to find some way to a new normal, that we don't forget everything that's happened and everything that we've learned, and we use that and don't lose sight of what's important. Holidays are different this year, but I think there's some good that's coming out of it. And lastly, to sort of wrap up, I want to talk about some entertainment, because obviously that's mainly what this channel is about. Taylor Swift came out with 2 albums this year. I feel like that's been the big highlight of 2020. She came out with Folklore, which is amazing. I tried to film a video ranking Folklore, and I did film it, and then I was just like, this is terrible. Like, there's just no way I can explain Taylor Swift songs in a way that other people can. I was just like, I just like love this album so much and I can't even put it into words. So I immediately deleted that footage. And then I watched the Long Pond Studio Sessions, which came out on Disney Plus, and that was even more beautiful. And hearing her explain those songs and her process writing them was brilliant. And then we got Evermore, which I remember when I woke up and I saw the email on my phone, because the first thing I do when I wake up is I check my phone normally because I'm turning off my alarm, and I just saw like Evermore out at midnight, and I was like, what is this, like another like little Folklore bundle thing? Because she did all of those little mini albums taking tracks of Folklore and sort of putting them together, and I was like, is that what this is? And then I saw it was a whole new album, and I was like, no way. I was like, this is not happening again this year. This is unbelievable. And all I've been doing since then is listening to Evermore nonstop, and it's been almost a week since it's been out, and I've listened to it like 2 or 3 times a day since then, and that's a decent chunk of what I've done besides schoolwork, and it's just been so great. I love those albums to pieces. They're freaking brilliant. I can't get enough of her and her writing, and I love this new direction that she's taken. It's brilliant. I've taken a romantic comedy class this year, so I've been watching rom-coms every week, so I want to make a video in the near future talking about all the rom-coms that I've watched and sort of the rom-com genre in general, because I'm also writing a romantic comedy novel, and sort of what's so empowering about the genre and what's so great about it, and how rom-coms can really be all over the place and can kind of be anything, which is great. I'm going to be talking about some of the books that I've read this year. It hasn't been a great reading year, but I've read some books and I think I can hopefully condense it down into one watchable video. I also read a whole bunch of books in 2019, and I don't feel like I really talked about them. I can't remember if I did or not. I'm like scrolling through my YouTube page to try to see if there was anything there, and from what I can tell, I don't think so. So maybe I'll even go back into 2019 and talk about some of the books that I've read and do that. I don't know. And if there's any other videos that you would like to see me film, please let me know. I'm probably going to try to talk about other movies and content that I've been watching, because that's a lot of what I've been doing, is watching lots of movies and TV shows and things. So I'll try to maybe do that too, cover all the bases, and end the year on a high note. But that, I think, is about the end of it. So thank you so much for watching this little rambly video. It's been nice to sit back down and just sort of talk and chat with all of you. I hope things have been going well on your end. If you want to leave me a comment and let me know how the second half of your year has been, please leave a comment and subscribe. It lets me know that you like my videos. Obviously, I'm not able to be as consistent as I would like, but I appreciate all of your support and for sticking around. Here's to the end of this godforsaken year and to a better 2021. Bye, guys.